All right, here's our final podcast for the giraffe stuff. I'll go ahead and kick off on our first topic. The wide receivers we drafted. We had is it Jordan Lansky or how do you pronounce his last name correctly?
Lashley, Lashley.
Lastly,
Lansky. All right, and Jameel Scott. So I guess we'll start off with those guys since Crabtree can be a little bit injury prone. So can John Brown. How do you guys feel about these wide receivers? And we also still have Tim White, Chris Moore backing these guys up. So let's just kick off there. I'll start with Vincent. What do you think of the wide receivers?
Oh, thank you, sir. Um, I'm actually a big fan of Jordan Lastly. I think he can be a real nice sleeper. I remember watching him at UCLA. I mean, he was Josh Rosen's favorite target by far. Um, I think he fell for some obvious reasons, related to his character, the suspension. Um, and then he definitely had some inconsistency with drops, which, I think as any Ravens fan, that's an immediate red flag. But I mean, thinking about where we got him in the fifth round, you know, he definitely had first or second day talent without a doubt. I mean, the guy put up 1,200 yards in a pro style offense. He's got all the measurables that you would want. I mean, 4.5 ran, he's got the size, the speed, he's got everything you look for. And he definitely has that explosion factor, that run after catch back factor that you're looking for. Um, I think this guy could end up being a steal for us if his head is on straight. If we get a motivated player, it seems like obviously from a pure talent perspective, he should have went a lot earlier in the draft. So hopefully that motivates him. So I'm really excited about his potential. I think based on not addressing wide receiver in the first 2 days, I think it's about as good as we could have come up with. Now, you know, me personally, I don't think I was not the biggest fan of not addressing receiver in the first 2 days of the draft, but um, I think when we get into other discussions about other picks, I'll have my thoughts on that. So I think Jordan Lastly is definitely the one. Jaleel Scott is definitely one of those dart throw high upside guys. He definitely has the high right real catches. He's got the frame. He reminds me of kind of the reason I'm not getting overly excited about him is he's got that kind of Tommy Streeter type vibe to him that I think we all kind of thought of him as that young sleeper guy, and obviously he didn't pan out. So I think he's one that will probably need more development. I mean, he comes from a small school, obviously. I don't think he has as much experience running the route tree. He was very much a kind of one dimensional, go up and get the ball type guy. But as a red zone threat, and he could get on the field a little bit. But to me, I think Jordan Lastly is the one that is exciting me a little bit, and I think he's one to look at. One name I'm going to throw out from an undrafted perspective. Uh, I always like to look at our undrafted guys. Jalen Ecken from Western Illinois was an undrafted guy we got. Dude ran a 4.5 40 with a 38-inch vertical and a 6.64 3 cone. And at 6 feet or 6'1", 185, he put up almost 1,400 yards. Granted, it was Western Illinois, but he's an intriguing one that I think I heard a little bit about in the rookie mini camp. So, but obviously as an undrafted guy, he's got his work cut out for him. But yeah, definitely I think Jordan Lastly is intriguing me, but I also think we probably missed an opportunity to draft one earlier.
Okay. Bill?
Ed Hartwell came from Western Illinois, just as a side note. I mean, so it's not like we never got a player from that college that did well.
Good call.
As far as the wide receivers go, I was happy, or I don't watch even though I live in LA. I didn't watch LA. I didn't watch UCLA, and so I had never seen Lasley play, with my own eyeballs. But I watched him after we took him, obviously, and I thought he looked good. As far as the drops situation with Lasley, that doesn't really concern me as much. Because it seems from watching him play, the demonstrative nature and the interviews that I've seen him play as, he seems like he's like an alpha type of receiver, which is what I think we're missing. And so the drops are concerning with a guy like Rashad Perriman, who's just like, oh, I'm happy to be here, and oh shucks, this is great. It's my dream come true. I love it. I want this guy to come in here and own the joint. So like Terrell Owens dropped a lot of balls, and I would have taken Terrell Owens in the prime of his career. So you take me over the bat a little bit. And so, I was more excited about him after the fact than I was Jaleel Scott. I don't see him getting open. He's got a huge catch radius, and he's pretty good on contested catches and that, just like Bolden was. But I didn't think he played for as big as he is. He's like 6'4" and 3/4, like 220. For as big as that guy was, I didn't see him making a lot of big guy plays. He had the one, obviously he had the one hugely famous one-hander, and that's obviously impressive. And some of his other highlights are like, wow. But on the snap to snap basis, I didn't think he blocked as well as a guy that size should be blocking, and I didn't think that he really bodied up on a guy. He was making catches with a guy draped over him just because he's so big, the guy couldn't get to the ball. And that's, there's something to be said for that. But I didn't see him out muscling, out working guys, just abusing smaller players. I did not see that on a snap to snap basis. So I was less excited about him after really looking, because I had never seen New Mexico play either. But it's a mixed bag. For me, the big disappointment was trading back from 75, and I wanted Michael Gallup at that spot badly. I thought he was the last guy that had a legit shot to be number one, and we passed on him at 65, which, okay, we traded back there. I can take that because he's still available at 75. When they traded back at 75 and he got picked by the fucking Cowboys right in front of us again, like Des Bryant, I was hot pissed when that happened. So, for me, it was a mixed bag.
Thank you for the mixed bag. Al.
Yeah, and just to go back on that point, yeah, I was hoping for Gallup too. We've talked about him for the last couple of weeks, and I was like, oh, the Ravens are going to get him and get a guy with some high production that can catch the football, especially after they didn't try to get DJ Moore in that first round of the draft.
Yeah, that's a great point. Just my brother is a huge Cowboys fan, and I was watching day 2 with him, so it just made it more painful.
Yeah. But as far as the receivers go, Lashley, I think he's got the best chance out of the entire rookie group. But I don't think any of these rookie receivers are going to get a chance really to catch the football or have any sort of production. With Andrews, with Hayden Hurst coming in, unless John Brown gets hurt, you've got Crabtree, you sign Willie Snead. There's really not going to be a lot of footballs to be thrown, especially if you throw Chris Moore in. If he gets some time on the field, there's not going to be a lot really for these rookies to do unless they just blow it out of the water in mini camps and in training camp. So these guys were late round picks for the Ravens. So I'm just taking the thought of, okay, we'll see what they can do. That's really my thought on the receivers. I was disappointed, of course. I think like probably every Ravens fan, we didn't get DJ Moore early. Then to see Gallup go. There were a few other guys. Christian Kirk. I thought could have potentially been a Ravens pick. So there were a lot of receivers in this draft, but I'm assuming Ozzie, everybody else just didn't feel like the receivers were that good, and that's why they went out and signed 3 wide receivers in free agency, and even offered to pay Des Bryant big money to come in here because they didn't think the receivers in the draft were that good. So, We'll see what they do. I think anything the Ravens get out of him will be a bonus this year.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I was going to say I think these guys are supposed to be project kind of guys coming in where they might see 15 to 25 catches on the year maybe, but they're definitely project guys, and they definitely did not like some of those wide receivers in the first round as much as Vincent did with Calvin Ridley or DJ Moore. So I kind of like them. I guess the confidence level behind Crabtree, Brown, and Snead to me is pretty low on these wide receivers. What would you guys give a confidence level if we lost all three of those wide receivers and you had to bring in Tim White, Chris Moore, Lindsey, and Scott? What would be your confidence level? I probably on a scale of 1 to 10, I probably put a 5.
I mean, if your top 3 receivers get hurt,
yeah, it's a possibility.
I mean, my confidence level is probably a 2. I mean, Tim White was great in the preseason last year, but I mean, can you really count on? I mean, can you really count on him to be a stud for you? I mean, lastly, you know, the biggest. I think one of the biggest positions to transition to in the NFL is receiver. It's tough because there's a lot in the playbook. Guys need to know where to line up. What side of the formation do you need to be on? And for some of the receivers, it's harder to grasp it. It's not just I'm on the right side of the formation every single time like you're in college, and then here's the route that you run, and you go run your route and make a play. They got to think a little more at the NFL level. So for 2 rookies, especially late round rookie picks to come in and make an impact, Tim White was great in the preseason, but hasn't played a real NFL game yet. And he was playing against third string guys that didn't make NFL teams either. So I'm at a 2.
My confidence level is at like a 4 with the top 3 receivers, you know? And so, like, I mean, if honestly, if Crabtree goes down, we're in trouble. Like, I don't even have to lose the top 3.
Let me interject just for a second. The reason why I'm asking is because this team has injuries every year. So what's your confidence level if Crabtree went down, Brown went down, Snead maybe out for a game or 2, but if you had to bring in these backup guys, what's your confidence level?
I mean, like it's going to depend on the health of all of them. Like, you know, I don't know, whatever. If Crabtree, you know, like tears his Achilles in the middle of training camp or something, and we're all of a sudden it's John Brown or bust. Like if John Brown, you know, stays healthy, he could put up 60 catches for 1,100 yards or something as a number, like not a default number 1 because we got nothing else, you know. But you can't count on John Brown. You know, John Brown's going to get a hamstring, he's going to get a toe or whatever, and all of a sudden his only real attribute NFL wise is speed and quickness. Is out the door. He like gets turf toe or something in week 4, and he's hobbling around out there. He's worthless because he's not going to win in the short area without quickness.
Well, yeah, I mean, first of all, I don't understand. I don't think any team in the league's confidence level would be above a 4 if their top 3 receivers were out. I mean, that's an impossible. I mean, you get that like that, and you're in trouble. I mean, but question, you know, Rashad Perriman's still on the team. I didn't hear that, but
not for long. not for long.
He's getting cut soon.
Yeah, he's got like $1 million bonus coming to him like the 3rd day of training camp or something. His ass is getting cut.
Yeah, he's gone. But yeah, at the end of the day, Jordan Last. I mean, I think if you know, we're in real trouble even if Crabtree's gone.
Yeah, that's what I think too.
He's the anchor. He's the one that puts everybody else in their proper place in the depth chart. Without him, everybody is not where they should be, and we're pretty much in trouble at the position.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly, I mean, I know that Dez is stubborn, but now that, I mean, he turned down 3 for 21 because he thought after the draft, somebody's going to, Des Bryant's going to get what Des Bryant wants. But, now that 3 for 21 is probably looking pretty good after it's been a month of silence. So, if I was Ozzy, I'd still be looking to try to get him. I'd be like, I'll give you 3 for 22.5. Be like, I'd try to give it a sweetener. You're like, come on, man. You don't have a team. You want a contract? It's just shit.
See, I'd offer him less at this point now.
I agree. I mean, the sensible businessman in me is like tenting my fingers like Scrooge McDuck. But these NFL players, you want them to feel the love, and if we can afford 3 for 21, and it's a difference between getting him and not getting him. To be like, oh yeah, now we're gonna offer you. I think it's looking more like a 3 for 12 type situation. I don't want. He's gonna be like, fuck you. I'll pay for $1 million for somebody else. I'm like, whatever. All right.
Well, hey, Vincent, what's your confidence level, and then you can address that.
Oh, my confidence level would be like a 1.
Okay. So I had the highest confidence.
Yeah, Dez is an interesting situation. I mean, I don't know what exactly he's thinking at this point. There is definitely not a big market at this point. So, he's a lever. I think we can at this point wait and see. I don't know. I don't see anyone jumping after him, but who the hell knows? He overplayed his hand way too much. Terrible decision by him, but I think, to me, Crabtree, I don't think we need to press Dez. Let him come to us.
Yeah, I agree at this point.
So you think Des Bryant's going to come back and say, hey, I'll sign a deal now? And let me just kind of throw that one in. I put it on the list, but let's throw it in. If you are going to sign to a 1-year deal, what would you give him?
I wouldn't sign for a 1-year deal.
The problem is with our cap situation, we can't sign him to a 1-year deal. We
just pushed the can down the road with Jefferson today. They cleared like $3.5 million off of Jefferson's restructure.
Right, so we have $8.6 million.
That's just we have $8 million right now, but that's without signing our picks, and you need a $4 million buffer going into the season for injuries. So there really isn't much wiggle room there. Unless you
wouldn't offer him $1.5 million
contract, but
he's not taking $1.5 million, Rob. If you just offered him $7 million a year over 3 years, he's not taking $1 million.
Yeah, and
big minimum.
At that point, it's going to be too much for our cap, so we're going to have to offer him like a 3-year deal, so we can minimize the first year cap hit. And then now you got him and Crabtree in that same situation.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the legalities are as far as structure goes. Maybe one of you guys does, but I don't know if they can do it's a 3-year, $18 million contract with a player option for the second and third years. I don't know how that affects the how they prorate the contract as far as what this year, but.
It would absolutely be structured like that. It would be structured with an escape clause after this year. So in effect, it's a 1-year deal.
Exactly. That's the kind of deal I would do. I would offer that deal right now. Be like, it's a 3-year deal for whatever. After we cut Flacco, we'll get that money and just whatever. It's just the way it goes.
Yeah, I think that's probably the type of offer we gave him. But
okay. All right. Well, let me move on to the next position. That's pretty important. Running back. Confidence level with what we have, and the Ravens have stated they may be looking at another running back in this offseason to add to that tandem or that mix. So if Alex Collins get hurt, how confident are you in Kenneth Dixon and Buck Allen without another running back? I'll go with Al first.
I'm middle of the road. Both of those guys have NFL experience. And to Vince's point, that's why you carry a little money into the season, just so you can potentially bring in a guy. But I'm okay with Kenneth Dixon flashed. 2 years ago, so we saw some flashes that Kenneth Dixon had. And Buck Allen, I mean, has had some good games for the Ravens, receiving out of the backfield as well as a runner. So I'm okay with the guys that they have, even if Alex Collins does get hurt. Um,
Okay.
I think that the bigger question for Alex Collins is how's he going to respond next year? I mean, now that teams have a year's worth of tape on him and can really focus on stopping him, especially if the passing game is mediocre.
Okay. Would you add DeMarco Murray in free agency?
Right now, no.
No,
Um,
not
I,
at all.
I no, I don't think you need to. I mean, they brought in some undrafted guys. I mean, see what you have first before you go to a veteran. I think if Ozzy's going to sign a veteran, it's going to be into the preseason from the running back position. I wouldn't expect the Ravens to bring in another running back right now. They've got like 8 on the roster right now.
All right, give me your confidence level if Alex Collins got hurt.
I mean, I'm a five, a six.
Okay.
I mean, I think even with Alex Collins, I don't think the Ravens are going to be one of the upper echelon rushing teams anyway. So if
Okay.
Alex Collins gets hurt, I still think Dixon and Buck Allen can come in and do a serviceable job. So I'm at a six.
All right, I'll go ahead and go with Bill. Alex Collins gets hurt. What's your confidence level? Would you add DeMarco Murray or a free agent running back?
I definitely would not add DeMarco Murray. I don't know who else might come loose at some point. If, the running back rosters get shaken up, I don't know who else might be out there. But DeMarco Murray would definitely not be a player that I would add. As far as the confidence in the running backs, I would say my confidence – I actually like Kenneth Dixon better than Alex Collins, but I don't know what Kenneth Dixon can do for 100% certainty. So I'm at like a 6. I think I'm probably like a 6 for both of them. I'm at a 6 for Alex Collins. I think he's a perfectly serviceable back. I think Buck Allen is a nice backup. He had some stuff in the passing game. And I would be actually a little bit excited to see what Kenneth Dixon could do with a full-time role. I don't want Alex Collins to go down, but if he did, I would feel the same level of confidence that he could perform at an adequate level as a running back, with the added bonus of maybe he's a little bit better than we thought he was. And so I'd be at a solid 6 with the feelings of ooh, it could be an 8, so that's where I'm at.
All right, Vince.
Well, I'll take it one step further. I'm at an 8. I think I like Kenny Dixon a lot. I think he's going to have to prove it, and I think if that situation happened, that'd be a perfect opportunity for him to show what he can do, and I have confidence in him. I mean, obviously he hasn't had a full opportunity, but I think with it, he would step up. And Buck Allen is a perfectly serviceable third down back. I mean, I think he is his pass protection's really underrated. I think that's a solid aspect of his game. Good receiver. And he can give you a little bit just plugging it in there, especially in the fourth quarter. So, I mean, obviously, and the biggest factor for me is you can find running back off the street at any time. So, if Alex Collins gets hurt, there is no shortage of these run-in-the-mill old backs that you can find or get a hold of. I just don't think we need to add like a DeMarco Murray or anybody like that at this point. I think we'll see. We sign a bunch of undrafteds. Maybe one of them look good. I mean, if not, maybe late in preseason you sign a veteran, but kind of let it see where it's at least for now. See if Kenny Dixon's really ready to mature and take that backup role.
All right. I guess it's my turn. My confidence level is more like a 5 with these guys back there. Kenneth Dixon hasn't played since 2016, and he didn't play very much. So I disagree with anyone saying he could be a 6 or 7 to me. I think he's more like a 3. I think Buck Allen's more like a 4. I think Alex Collins is more like a 7. But I'll give a confidence level of 5. I think they should add DeMarco Murray to this team because that's a good mix-up. He's already a proven NFL guy. You added Orlando Brown. The offensive line got better. DeMarco Murray could run behind this line pretty well. So I would add him into the mix and probably put Buck Allen on the practice squad. So I'm at a 5. I think we add DeMarco Murray. Then I think you take it up to a 7.
Well, we don't know what this offensive line is yet. I mean, I agree with you that Orlando Brown was an excellent pick in the 3rd round. I was very excited to get him. I'm even more excited since I've heard him talk about how ecstatic he was that it was Baltimore that got him. So I'm even more excited about that. But we don't know what the center position is yet. I don't have that. I'm not that high on Skura, that's for sure. In my opinion, the best situation would be leaving Hurst at left guard and moving Alex Collins to the center spot. But I don't. That exact question was posed to Harbaugh, and he said, "No, that's not the plan." He said, the Hurst is going to be the right tackle, but I can't imagine Hurst starting over Orlando Brown.
Vince, Al, any extra comments there on the offensive line?
I mean, well, I'll follow up first with the running back piece. I mean, there's 6 running backs on this roster right now. Why would you bring DeMarco Murray in? There's no point. See what you have in the other 3 guys. You got 3 guys with NFL experience on the roster. Alex Collins has played a full season in the NFL, and he was in the league before that. I mean, Buck Allen's been around for a while now, and this is Kenneth Dixon's third season in the league. So yeah, while DeMarco Murray's a proven running back, I think he had one good year running behind that strong Cowboys line. He wasn't great with the Raiders, and he was a little more injury prone there. So why pay a guy like that? I mean, see what you have in some of these young guys like Mark Thompson, the kid out of Florida. I think they just signed a running back after the rookie training camp this weekend. I mean, see what you've got in some of those guys first. Onto the offensive line. I mean, there's really 3 starters on the offensive line that we all know are a lock. That's Ronnie Stanley, Marshall Yanda, and Alex Lewis. They're going to give Orlando Brown Jr. every opportunity to win that right tackle job. And hopefully he does. I mean, the rumor is that they're going to try to kick Alex Collins to center and let James Hurst play left guard. I don't think that's what's going to happen. And I'll give you kind of my bold prediction. I think Bradley Bozeman is going to be starting center for the Ravens this year.
Yeah, Bozeman. Go ahead, Vince.
That's bold. I like it. I said my piece on the running back. So on the offensive line, yeah, I mean, the ideal situation is Orlando Brown wins that right tackle job, and really, I kind of like Hurst at left guard and then Alex Lewis at center, but if that can work out, I mean, that would put our best 5 linemen on the field, and I feel like that is kind of how we've always approached the offensive line. So who knows? I mean, if Harbaugh keeps denying it, but we'll see. I mean, they are high on this scorer, but I don't see it personally.
Bozeman? Yeah, no.
Bozeman? Yeah, let's see. I mean, I'm not going to say he's ready to be a starting center from day one yet. I mean, I don't think if he was, he would have been drafted well or much earlier. I mean, he's not an athlete in the NFL sense, but
well, remember Jensen was a 6th-round pick.
He could just be a mauler. I mean,
Yeah, Jensen was a 6th-round pick, but he was also in the last year of his contract, so he'd been on the roster for a while. Exactly. I would not. It would not surprise me to see Bozeman turn into a starting player down the line. He was the pivot of that Alabama offensive line that mauled all year in the SEC against the best players that you can play against in college football. So it would not surprise me to see him start. And quite honestly, if they put him at the starting spot this year for us, it would be because I would feel confident because I know that our coaching staff on the offensive line and at the tight end spots are pretty good. And so, like, if they're saying this is our best guy, you know, I got to feel all right about that, because Skura played okay at right guard last year. And if he beat Skura out for the center and they decided not to move Alex Lewis over, and like they've got Hurst, whatever, sitting on the bench at $4 million a year, like I'd feel, you know, I'd be like, okay, if he's the guy, then he's, you know, let's maul some people. I mean, you know, Orlando Brown's not going to be out there like tiptoeing around. So like, yeah, okay, let's put people in the dirt. You know, if that's what we're going to be, let's do it.
No, hang on. Does that change your confidence level with the running back situation if the line is that good?
My confidence level is in the fact that I think the offensive line is better. Like I love Orlando Brown. I just love him, and so, you know, like I will say this though.
Does your six become
stop calling him Little Zeus? It's Zeus Deuce. Zeus Deuce. Like, you got, I mean, come on, let's get our nickname game on point out of here.
Now, hang on. Does that change your confidence level from a 6 to an 8? Because
no. I mean, my confidence level in the offensive line is high. I don't know that we have a special running back, although I do believe that Kenneth Dixon has that potential. But no, my confidence level is as high in the running backs as it is, because I'm very confident that we're at the minimum going to be able to run the shit out of the ball this year. So I don't know. I don't know what the wide receivers are going to do. I don't know if Flacco is going to keep laying eggs with you know, Lamar Jackson sitting on the bench behind him. You know, I don't know what's going to happen with that, but I do think that we're going to maul motherfuckers out there, and I like. You can fall back on that if the defense is legit, and we've got a chance to be legit. So we'll see how it goes, because Flacco's definitely better than Dilfer, and we already did it once with Dilfer. So, you know, we'll see.
All right. Well, Vince, you already at an 8 confidence level. So Al, you were, I think, at a 5. So would you change your confidence level with the offensive line if you think it's going to be that good?
If the offensive, the running game is always going to be, it's going to live and die by your offensive line play. So if the offensive line plays well, your running backs are gonna look good. I mean, Alex Collins showed you what he could do last year. So if you put him behind a better offensive line than what he had this year, he's gonna play better. And if Kenneth Dixon shows some of the flashes that he showed in his rookie season, it's going to be hard for Buck Allen to even get on the field this year.
Okay. So, I mean, does your confidence level go up, or are you keeping it out at a 5?
I mean, offensive line plays well. My confidence level is an 8 in the running game. I mean, maybe even a 9.
All right. We'll move on to next one. We haven't talked about this really at all. So, defense. We have a new defensive coordinator. Does his change of scheme make the defense better? Because we didn't draft anybody. So you're bringing back Tim Williams, you're bringing back Horst Bowser for their second years. Does this defense change with Don Wink? So I'll start with Vince, if you want to go first.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't go as far as calling it change the scheme, but I think we're going to see more pressure-oriented looks than I think we saw with Dean. So I think that goes without saying. So, you know, I think you'll get to see a little more of that Rex Ryan-ish type packages, but, you know, it won't change fundamentally. You know, I wasn't interested that we really didn't draft too much except for secondary help. But although that Zach Sealer, that defensive lineman, they think they might have a good 5 technique with him, and he could be a sleeper at the D line. But yeah, I mean, I think with Wink we have to take the next step forward to close out games. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing that this defense has lacked for the last 2 years, and you got to hope that he makes those changes to late in games and figure out a way to get more pressure and get stops, because that is going to make the difference for this defense as to whether it's going to be a dominant D that's going to lead us to the playoffs and beyond, or what it's been the last few years, a really good D that at the most critical moments made their worst plays, and we're done.
Okay, let me let me throw something on you there. Suggs, does he do over under 10 sacks with his new defensive coordinator?
I mean, you know me and stats, man. I don't do.
I'm just asking you over under. I didn't ask you over under 10 sacks in your opinion.
I think he'll be. It's a push. How about that? Right at 10.
You're gonna push. Okay.
I'll take the push.
You just can't say over under. You want to push it. All right.
I mean, I think he'll be his usual self. I don't think he's going to be. I don't think you're going to see any more. But he's been playing really good ball. So
okay. All right. I just like to throw a random question in there. All right. I guess I'll go next for my defense commentary. So I haven't seen a lot with Don Wink, so I don't know really what to expect. I've heard everyone say this guy is going to be more aggressive. So are you going to be using Tim Williams, Tyrus Bowser, Suggs? You're going to be using these guys a lot more. You're going to be using Matt a lot more. If you're going to be rushing the passer more, does that mean the secondary is going to be as good as we think it's going to be? Because Jimmy Smith, man, that guy has now played 16 games in a long time. When he does play, that defense plays better. When he's not there, I get worried, especially with the passing game. So with a healthy Jimmy Smith, and if this guy's going to be a little bit more aggressive, then I feel like the defense could step up a little bit. But I think it's going to be the offense that wins the games this year. But I'm going to worry. So my confidence level in the defense, man, I think I'm going to go with a 6 out of 10. I didn't get asked for you, Vincent. What's your confidence level on the defense?
I'm going to go 8. I mean, Matt Judon, I'm just going to say him, and that's it.
All right, Al, your turn. Confidence level.
I mean, I'll give you my confidence level first. The defense. My confidence level is a 9. I feel confident in the defense going into the season, and I'll start with I think what's going to be the strength of the defense this year, and I think it's going to be the linebackers. And here's why. Suggs has continued to produce. Last year he produced, he's 16 years into the league, and had a double-digit sack year for the Ravens. And I argue, he's going to have 10+ sacks again this year. Granted, I think multiple sacks are going to come against teams like Cleveland, and some of the teams that he'll just kind of feast on, versus kind of it being spread out amongst 10 games. But I think he's going to have a good year. Matt Judon, that guy, 2 more years. After he hits that, that restricted free agency, that guy's going to be rich. I expect him to come out and have another great year. He's great against the run. He can rush the passer. The guy that I think is going to be the X factor if he stays healthy this year is Darius Smith. He's in a contract year, really. For the most part, and I think he's going to perform. In the games that you saw him there, how many pressures did you see where he was just a step or two away from getting a sack? I think this year he just brings it home and gets there. We'll see who they put next to CJ Mosley to fill the inside linebacker spot. It sounds like they want Kenny Clark to win this job, and he's going to kind of be that nickel linebacker that's going to be in the game with Mosley because he's got the speed to cover tight ends down the field. But that's really enough about the linebackers. I think Tim Williams will be better this year because I think he's going to actually be in shape. I thought he was out of shape just looking at him last year, and that he wasn't the same guy that was just kind of quick off the edge at Alabama. The secondary, I think, is going to be solid. You mentioned Jimmy Smith gets hurt a lot, but I like Marlon Humphrey. He showed everybody that he's a football player last year. He went toe to toe with the likes of Antonio Brown last year. Too bad at the end of the game the Ravens decided to throw Brandon Carr in a 1-on-1 against Antonio Brown. But Marlon Humphrey is a great football player. Brandon Carr is a steady guy. He can't defend Odell Beckham. He can't defend Antonio Brown, but he does well against everybody else. If Jimmy Smith can stay healthy for a large part of the season, and he's 100% when the season starts, you've got some great corners. Kennedy played well last year. I think Averett is going to make the team and be a nice depth for the Ravens. I think the safeties are really for the secondary. Tony Jefferson needs to play better this year. He missed a lot of tackles last year. He's got to play better. I think Weddle played well. He's got to turn in another strong performance this year. And then on the D line, it's just those guys at the 5 technique have got to get into the backfield. And Pierce has got to play better against the run. But I feel confident in the defense that they're gonna bring home a solid performance this year.
All right, let me ask you a question there. Over under 21 interceptions for this secondary. Last year, I think they had 26. I'm
probably just under. I don't think they have the same because they're under because you lose the DeShone Kizer games. I don't think they're going to get the 6 turnover games again against the Bengals. I mean, they had the Bengals and the Browns. I mean, how many turnovers did they have in those 4 games alone? I mean, they probably had 20 turnovers in those 4 games.
Okay.
The first game we had 7. I want to say DeShone Kizer probably threw 5 or 6 picks against the Ravens himself.
And he fumbled.
Yeah, had a couple fumbles.
All right, Mr. Bill, your turn, bud. Your confidence level and your thoughts on the new defense coordinator scheme.
As far as the coordinator, it's not a scheme change, man. He's just more aggressive than Pease was. They're keeping the defense exactly the same, from what I understand. It's just he's just a more aggressive play caller. Which I do like, but the last time that guy Martindale was a defensive coordinator, the Broncos defense shit the bed. They were last in the league, so I'll hold off on like, ooh, the new scheme's gonna be so awesome. Like the best coordinators in the league. Now I may be putting my foot in my mouth right now because I don't have the stats in front of me, but I would eat my boot if Rex Ryan ever turned into dead last defense. I just don't think it happened, and so. We'll see how that goes. But as far as the players go, if they, I had heard
confidence level.
Huh?
Confidence level.
I'm getting that, man. I thought my own time, fool. But as far as the players go, the players on the field, like I've heard tell in whatever press conferences or whatever, that the players like it because he's letting them call checks more and letting them audible to shit, whatever. I like that because I think Mosley is great at calling a defense on the field. He knows what he's talking about. And I'm excited about Anthony Averett because Humphrey can do a 1-to-1 translation on the defense on the field. Like, dude, they're calling this coverage. It just means this. It's the same thing because Saban's defense is what we run. The defense that they run at Alabama is the defense that we run in the NFL. And so, like, he's just going to be like, yeah, it's whatever. This word means this word. Yeah, you go line up, man. And I think he's going to be able to contribute more as a rookie on the field than what a 4th-round pick from wherever might have to normally, because he's a good player and he's not going to have to learn the defense. He's not going to have to know it like the back of his hand because Marlon Humphrey is going to be able to say, this is the defense they're calling. This is your responsibility. Go do it. So in that regard, my confidence level is probably I'm a solid 8. And if Martindale doesn't fuck anything up and lets Suggs and all those pass rushers loose, it could be a 10, man. If everybody plays right, like if Al mentioned him, if Pierce takes the next step, because I thought he was decent in certain situations and then blew a couple things in certain situations too. So if Pierce takes that next step up, he was a nice player. If Williams steps up, if Bowser steps up, all that kind of thing. And I actually think Bowser, even though we just fucked up kind of like Correa doing it, I think Bowser's a better player than Correa. I might put Bowser at the middle linebacker spot.
No.
I'm just saying. I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, it's going to shake out in camp one way or the other. So me saying it doesn't make it happen. But I'm saying if you watch Bowser on tape at Houston, in his last college year, he was in coverage a lot. And for them to put him in coverage a lot, and he did a decent job, the fact that they put him in coverage so much despite him being their best pass rusher by far, says that this dude can cover. And so, like, we've never had a player like him at the middle linebacker spot. Like, I mean, I know Ray was all-time great, but they're totally different players. Like, he could blitz from the inside linebacker spot like Kendrell Bell used to before he got hurt in Pittsburgh. He was playing the inside backer spot and rushing from inside backer and getting home. And so, I mean, I don't know what they're going to do defensively. And certainly, I think Bowser has a lot of potential at the outside linebacker spot too. I love the Bowser pick when they made it, and so I'm excited to see what he becomes. But in my opinion, Judon is a star. He is a superstar, and so like I think Suggs is gonna. I agree with everybody that said it's going to be a push. I think he's going to get 10, but I think Judon is a superstar just waiting to pop. And then I still have confidence in Tim Williams and Bowser. So that's a crowded outside linebacker spot. And if you want to get your best 11 on the field, Bowser, and he doesn't have to play every single down. Like if Kenny Young is better in coverage or whatever, he doesn't have to play every single down, which is actually good for everybody as far as being tired. But if he can play the middle linebacker or the inside linebacker spot next to Mosley, not have those kind of run responsibilities because Mosley's going to get all that, gobble all that up. If you can rush him from the inside and move the chess pieces around, this time Suggs is going to be rushing from the defensive tackle spot, we'll see what it goes. We'll see what happens. But I like the defense as it is, and I think the cornerbacks are nice. And if Jimmy Smith, I think they're nice even if Jimmy Smith misses like 6 games. So, but I think if he stays healthy, they're head-to-toe legit.
No, that was my point. If Jimmy Smith stayed healthy, let me give you a question. Over under 100 yards rushing, will that defense not allow a 100-yard rusher?
No, they'll allow a 100-yard rusher. I don't know what our schedule looks like, but they'll allow somebody to be 100.
Okay. All right, Vincent, you had a little bit upset that Bowser moved to inside linebacker, so go ahead.
No, I wasn't that upset. I think he's a movable chess piece for sure. I mean, I think, and we're going to be a lot more multiple, so I could see him standing up, or even, when we have 4 down, he can play that outside backer. So I mean, he's got so many options, and yeah, I think you need to find ways to get him on the field, because I think he showed a lot of promise his rookie year, and to me, but at the end of the day, Judon is the guy over there opposite of Suggs, and make no doubt about that. But you got to find ways to mix in Bowser, and I think with Wink, I hope they open it up a little more, and I think he's going to listen to CJ and more, and they're going to start getting where they need to be to open up this defense from good to great. And I think that's the next step they need to take.
Okay. All right, let's get into the elephant in the room, Flacco versus Jackson. Because, it's a hot topic now, because Flacco is not Jackson.
I think you should go first, Rob.
It's a hot topic.
You're on the hype train.
And I am going to go first on this one. That's okay. But I'm just saying, let's go with that first. So, obviously, over the weekend, Jackson had his rookie minicamp. From the footage you can watch on the Ravens network, he did pretty good. Didn't show any interceptions or drops, so I don't get a full 100% of what he really did out there. But from some of the passes looked pretty good. I heard he took off on a run for 10 yards or something like that. But, the coach coming out, giving a lot of praise to him, saying, hey, this guy looked really good. He was very accurate. Looking at how this team was designed, and as we said on the last podcast, I like the 2 tight ends that they brought in, because I thought that's what they would need for this guy, especially if injuries happen to John Brown or an injury happens to Crabtree. He's going to rely on those 2 tight ends a lot. So there's obviously quarterback controversy, right? Jackson's more exciting guy. His jersey 400% up in sales last Saturday and just keeps skyrocketing. The number 2 highest selling jersey was his black jersey. Just saying. Very electrifying player.
Well, the fact that you bought like 16 of them, Rob, that right there put that number up.
This is also true, and my Jackson jersey will be here soon. I guess here's the question, right? So what's everyone else is asking it. So Flacco, let me start with that one. Should he respond to any kind of text to him should Joe Flacco be doing anything, or is he doing the right thing? There you go. Should he do something, or is he doing the right thing? I'll start with Bill.
I mean, I don't know, I don't know what we have yet. Like, I don't Harbaugh is talking about, oh, we're mixing up plays in the laboratory, whatever. Like, okay, the offensive production that's been on the field for the last 3 years does not give me a great deal of confidence in our laboratory. I would like to send our laboratory results out to some other laboratory and get it retested. But we know what we've got with Flacco. I think that I do believe, because Flacco historically has always played his best ball in the biggest spots with the most pressure. I think having a guy with a rocket arm who can run like a deer sitting on the bench behind him is just the motivation that Flacco needs to go out and have a really good year. And so if the pieces that we have added offensively, as far as protecting him better with the offensive line, being able to open up the running game with the big maulers up front, if that gives him more time to throw and a better running game to rely on play action, I think he could have a good year. And, I don't know. I said this to somebody, it may have been Rob, but if Flacco has a great year this year, like an MVP type level year this year, I think he's the quarterback again in 2019. If he goes out and has a pretty good year, but sort of still Joe Flacco-esque, like heartbreaking 3-yard checkdowns on 3rd and 8, like unwatchable football offensively, at points, even if he has like a pretty good year statistically or whatever, I think it's going to largely depend upon what the coaching staff sees and thinks of Lamar Jackson. So if Flacco has an okay year, but not great, and Jackson has annihilated our defense in practice and lit teams up in the preseason and showed all those accuracy markers that you want to see from a quarterback developing over the course of the year, then I think Flacco is gone if he doesn't perform great after 2018. If Jackson has some short area accuracy issues, because the places he struggles to be accurate are in the short area, like in the 4 to 6 yard, out patterns and things like that. That's where he struggles on accuracy. And so if he shows improvement with those things, if the quarterback coach gets him on the right spot, but if he doesn't, on the other side of that, on the flip side of that coin, if Flacco has just an okay year and Jackson has been struggling and hasn't really whatever, then I think it's possible that we see Flacco again, even if he's not that great, so I don't know. We'll see.
Well, hang on. Let me ask you, define great season for Flacco real quick. Just give me an idea of what would be a great
type of season that makes him the starter no matter what Jackson looks like.
Yes.
A great season for him would be, and I'm not even talking statistics, but if we win and the offense, let's call it somewhere in the neighborhood of 4,000 yards, and like a more 2000, what was it? When was he at 14? Yeah, if a 2014-esque type season plus, like if you're 2014 plus, I think Flacco's the starter no matter what.
Okay, all right. I'll let Al go next. I'll let Vincent save his for last. Go ahead, Al.
All right, so let's get out of the Rob fantasy world and get into reality. There's no quarterback controversy. Before we get out of my fantasy world, I did say we're going to draft him on the 26th. That was the answer we did. So my fantasy's still going. So go ahead. Rob, there's nobody in this forum that didn't want to draft Lamar Jackson. So everybody, and I don't think every fan that I've heard is excited to see Lamar Jackson on the football field. He'll be on the football field in 2018. It just won't be as a starting quarterback for the Baltimore Ravens, unless, and we'll get to that shortly, but there's no quarterback controversy right now. Joe Flacco is the starter. He's going into training camp as a starter. He's going into preseason as a starter, and he will go into week 1 as the starter. If we see some of the same, just one read, and then I'm checking down to the running back. I think by mid-season, I venture, and the Ravens aren't winning, or they're kind of just mediocre, of 4-4, 3-5 team. I think Steve Bisciotti is going to come down and say, put Lamar Jackson in the game at this point. He's our starter, because the Ravens are losing ticket sales. Not necessarily fans, but like every sports league now has to combat with. It's a better experience to sit down and watch the game at home than it is to go to your stadium. I mean, people have 60, 70-inch TVs now sitting in their basements. All the beer they can drink in their refrigerator that's not $7 a beer. I've got food, no line at the bathroom. So the Ravens have to compete with that, and trust me, Steve Bisciotti knows that. So he's not going to let that offense look like what it looked like last year with Joe Flacco and not give Lamar Jackson an opportunity. I don't care what Harbaugh says, because Harbaugh's on the hot seat anyway. I don't think there's a quarterback controversy, but you heard fans boo that Ravens offense last year. They're going to be screaming for Lamar Jackson if Joe Flacco doesn't play well. Now, with that said, hopefully Joe Flacco does turn in a better season. I don't think Joe Flacco throws for more touchdowns this year, but if he can at least throw for more yards and have a higher yards per attempt, I think that's really the biggest thing to look at with Joe Flacco is how far is he throwing the football down the field, and is he limiting the turnovers, namely the interceptions on just some of the throws I saw last year were just bad throws, and you're looking like, what was he looking at when he made that throw there? So no controversy. I like the Lamar Jackson pick. I'm rooting for him. I hope he is the next great quarterback, because that means the Ravens are going to be a great team for years to come. But Joe Flacco is at least here for another year. I think 2 at the most, and no matter what happens, I think Joe Flacco gets cut. I do think the Ravens will go to Flacco at the end of the year and squeeze him for a new contract. And I think Joe Flacco may be willing to negotiate.
Well, hang on a second. Let me ask you a quick question there. In the preseason, if Joe Flacco does your check down type deal, doesn't look too good, Jackson's on the field, he blows it up, and that offense moves and it's exciting, you still don't think week 1 starter Jackson? Just real quick.
No, because you're going to see Flacco out there for a series. They're not going to put Joe Flacco out there for extended periods of time, because this year you've got to remember. I mean, the controversy is, are the Ravens going to keep 3 quarterbacks this year? Are they going to keep Joe Flacco, Lamar Jackson, and Robert Griffin III, and then push Josh Woodrum back to the practice squad? I mean, because all of those guys need to play this year, and all of those guys now, the way that the cuts work, will be there for the whole preseason. So I think you'll see limited Joe Flacco. You'll see some Lamar Jackson. They're going to give Robert Griffin a chance to get out there and throw the football, and then Josh Woodrum will be the wrap-up guy. But no, I don't think if Lamar Jackson has a great year, I think the Ravens have already said it. I mean, they're devising plans to get Lamar Jackson onto the football field for packages, and it's kind of going to be like what you probably saw with Tyrod. A few plays here and there, they throw him out there. He's in the game, and that's it.
Okay. So you don't think Joe? I mean, just go back to the original question real quick for you. So Joe Flacco, should he reach out to Jackson, or is he doing the right thing right now?
No. I mean, that's a preference thing. I mean, Alex Lewis already said it. I mean, he didn't reach out to him when he got drafted. I mean, Ronnie Stanley didn't call him and say, "Hey, I'm glad you got picked." I mean, it's the media is making a bigger deal out of that than what it needs to be. I mean, you saw how Ben Roethlisberger reacted when the Steelers drafted a quarterback. So now he's not retiring, and he's going to play for 5 more years. And hey, I'm not helping him. He needs to learn on his own. So
okay.
I mean, you saw how Brett Favre treated Aaron Rodgers. You saw how Tom Brady's treated everybody. So why should Joe Flacco be any different?
Okay. All right, Vince, go ahead and let out your Joe Flacco's the greatest ever. Go ahead.
As usual, you misrepresent my views because you are so outrageous. But
Godfather Part 3.
Do we have to beat this dead horse in that there is no controversy? I mean, I'm not even going to spend time on it. Bill and Al did a nice job summarizing that for you, Rob. So hope you took notes. But when you're talking about broader picture, I think Joe. First of all, I agree with a lot of what Bill said about he is set up and positioned to have a real good year. I think if you look at his second half of last year and you take away everything else, look at his last 7 games, he was turning the corner. And I think that can be attributed to post by, and the fact that he did have that back injury. Now, I don't want to talk about that as an excuse for last year, but now looking back at it, I think objectively you can see there was evidence that he was putting some, at least better ball, more Flacco ball. So I think to me, longer term picture, Joe needs to have at least a good Joe year, which is like a 2014, 2012, like 20 touchdowns. He throws those 12 picks. I mean, if you look over his career a year, like his good Joe years, he throws exactly 12 picks. So, he needs to do that, 12 or more, less, 20 some touchdowns, and more importantly, lead this offense and team to the playoffs. And I think if that happens, then I think he's back for 2019. I just think when you look at the cap hit, it is significant. And you can't lose sight. I mean, either spreading out 16, 18 over 2 years or, taking 10 at once or 18 at once, excuse me, it's bad either way when you look at it. So, to me, if they miss the playoffs and Joe has a bad year, I think it's pretty easy to say 2019 starts the Lamar Jackson era. But, I'm betting on Joe having a real good year. Joe Goodyear. I mean, I think, we know we're going to get Joe, but at the end of which hopefully means that, he starts playing his best ball in the second half of the year. He leads this offense. He cuts down on the turnovers and bad decisions. And, with the run game and play action and hopefully a defense that can lock down leads when we get them, especially late in the year. And if we get into the playoffs, and then hopefully he's playing his best ball like he's done before. So, at the end of the day, I agree with Bill that, this may be the fire that he needed. And, say what you want about what that means about Joe. Maybe it's the truth, So I'm excited to see it. Frankly, I'm again going to put it out there. I'm on record about Lamar Jackson and my concerns about him as a passer, but he's a Raven now, so I hope I am dead wrong and he is everything the generational quarterback that he absolutely can be. And I think he can be. And we'll see how he develops. I mean, I think you start in, hopefully, in preseason, he can show enough to say that he can be the number 2 quarterback. And, we maybe don't need RG3 because at the end of the day, you can probably release him week 1 and then add him a few weeks later, as you get more comfortable or whatever the case may be, or if something happens to Joe, then he can be there. So I think the goal for Lamar Jackson should be to show enough that we can be confident not to carry RG3, because looking at our history, we don't like to carry 3 quarterbacks. And I think ideally, with all the depth we have at the other positions, we're really not going to want to carry 3 quarterbacks. But he's going to have to show in preseason that, he's capable enough from the pocket with, NFL type rhythmic short passing and move the chains type ball that we would need to see to get comfortable with, him being the only backup going into the year. So I think that's where the real, intrigue for me of how he plays, and hopefully he can develop from there. And, he's 21 years old, bottom line. So there is no reason to rush this kid. I think, he should have his packages, and hopefully, we should be able to use his athletic talent in some sort of wildcat and other formations. We would be stupid not to. But anything beyond that for this year means that we've had a disaster of a year.
Okay, so me and you disagree on that. I told you Jackson will be the week 1 starter. Let me throw something out there for the three of you. So far, this kid, you can laugh all you want. You laughed at me drafting this guy. You laughed at me on the other.
Nobody laughed
I enjoyed all that.
drafted him, fool. We all
Yes.
wanted
Yeah.
him. We all said it, man. You're just like you're like the head engineer of the hype train.
Well, let me throw it back. If he starts to win over teammates in the locker room, like they start liking him better, is there a quarterback controversy then? You can say yes or no. Up to you.
No.
You have a no from Vincent. If he wins over Eric Weddle, all those guys are like, we want Jackson on the field. You're saying no, there's not a quarterback controversy.
No,
The only
there's not.
scenario that Joe plays terrible. Like I said, if Lamar Jackson plays this year, it means that we have at some point become a bad team, and it's gonna get ugly.
Yeah,
That
our
is the
bye week.
scenario.
Our
in
bye
which he
week
plays.
is week 10. We're on the bye week 10. If we're 4-6 and Flacco is playing mediocre football, I believe we will see Jackson in week 11. But if Flacco's playing decent ball, you will not see Lamar Jackson on the field for more than like the handful of snaps that they're gonna cook up in the laboratory.
Yeah, I would agree. It would have to be maybe even worse than 4-6, but 4-6 minimally.
I believe if we're a sub 500 team in going into week 11, and Flacco is not playing well, Bashotti's going to want to see what he's got in the cookie jar because he's just too exciting. He's too exciting. And the guy makes unbelievable plays out of absolutely nothing. His offensive line was atrocious. And, and so if we have same old average Joe, I think Bashotti's going to he wants to see what the future looks like.
Okay, Al.
I mean, I agree. I mean, there's no controversy. I don't care if Lamar Jackson wins over everybody in the locker room. There's no controversy. There's nothing left to talk about at this point, Rob.
There's nobody in that locker room. They all start yelling, "We want this guy to start."
Come on, Rob.
Okay.
All three of us are like, no.
I'm okay with that. I like playing against the odds. I'm fine with that. I say that he wins over the teammates. They like him a lot. I think Jackson starts week 1 because he's going to wow in the preseason. I'll state it now. That is going to happen. All right.
So bold. Care to put a friendly wager on that proclamation?
Hold on. Let me throw one more scenario there for you.
I already have. I brought back lunch, right? I think.
Listen up. End of the season. A quarterback on another team tears their ACL. Would they trade Joe Flacco? And what team? Let's say Denver. Let's say the Finns are out there. I don't know what. It could be another team out there as well.
Jacksonville.
Jacksonville. Thank you, Jacksonville. So let's say at the end of the preseason, there's a call for a trade for Joe Flacco because the quarterback got injured because on another team.
In the preseason,
do you think they trade him?
I'm not that. No, not in the preseason. We like Rob. Joe Flacco will be the quarterback of this team in 2018, barring horrendous play and/or injury to his own person.
Rob, enough of these scenarios. I'm
just throwing a scenario out there. Let's trade him.
Let's move along to whatever the next question is.
All right, the last part of this is
aliens kidnapped Tom Brady. And Tom Brady is missing, and he's on the alien spaceship. Do the Patriots call?
All right, last one is your bold predictions. Because I guess we'll do another podcast when we get into the actual preseason. So training camp, those types of deals. So right now, any bold predictions you want to put out for this season? It can be on a player. Could be the team, could be defense, offense, whatever you want. So I'll start with Vince. What's your bowl? You got any bowl predictions?
Was that me?
Yeah. And you got any? It could be a player. It could be
Bold
anything
prediction.
you want to predict.
Such a rock. We win the division.
That's a bold prediction. That's a good one. That's a good one.
I don't know. I mean, I think Pittsburgh, we will see. I mean, I don't think they did enough to address their defense, and that's still a problem. And just so much drama around Ben. You know, I think hopefully we can get them in, you know, Cleveland and Cincinnati. We'll see. You know, Cleveland will be better, but that means 4 wins. So, you know, there'll be a lot. They've been a tough out for a while for us. So I don't think it necessarily is any different for us. And Cincinnati, you know, I think they did not do enough in my mind either to get any better. So
Okay, that's a good bold prediction, actually. All right, Al, you got a bold prediction? Player, team, defense, offense, whatever you want it to be.
I mean, my player prediction was I think Bradley Bozeman's going to be starting center for the Ravens this year. So that was my bold prediction along the offensive front.
Okay.
And team wise, I'm just not ready to make a team prediction.
You don't have to make a team. You could say a player.
Just yet. I think Suggs has 10 plus sacks this year.
Okay, I like that. That's a good prediction.
Those are my only 2 predictions I'm giving right now until I see some of these other guys in the preseason.
All right, so. Training camp. We got training camp coming up. All right, Bill, go ahead. You got any bold predictions?
I'm looking up right now what the top. I can't find it, but I was trying to look up what the all-time sacks record for as a team, as a unit was, but I can't find that off the top of my head. Last year we had 41, but whatever. I'm going for it no matter what it is. It's got to be 2006 when we had Trevor Price. Whatever that number is, the Ravens break the all-time sack record. Whatever the team record is for sacks, we break it this year.
Wow,
nice.
That's a bold prediction.
I think that year with Dumerville and Suggs, I think they broke it that year.
Okay. All right. We get it. We get it again. We break it. Our own record. Suggs breaks his own record.
Wow. You think he plays healthy the whole year and breaks the record? Very nice. Okay.
No, I mean I'm saying as a team, not just Suggs. As collective sacks as a team. We're gonna break whatever our top number is, we're gonna break it this year.
So you think Don Wink will be aggressive enough that they get back there?
Can I just say the man's name is Don Martindale.
Don Wink.
Because Wink Martindale was a game show host. So I'm calling him Don Wink. It's very annoying.
That's what they call him in the papers, man.
That's
what they call him, Don Wink.
Is it?
They call the guy. Yes, they do. Google it.
Is it?
Google it. All right, my bold prediction, and this is one Vincent hates the most. Lamar Jackson starts week 1, carries this team to a 12 to 13 win season, wins.
Oh my God. Rob, you're unbelievable. You are unbelievable.
Rob, everybody's taking bets on that one.
Yeah,
I already have one with Vincent.
Hey, I don't know if you want to just do it. Like, give me the money early. I'm going to Vegas this coming Thursday.
Yeah.
So, you know.
Wait. If you're going to Vegas Thursday, put 100 on me for Ravens to win it all.
Ravens Super Bowl? Okay.
That's right.
I'm definitely putting it on for me. I had it last year, even though we were going to be garbage, and I knew it.
Yeah, we're not going to be garbage.
I mean, for $100, it's like hitting the lottery, and you get to root for the team. It's like a win-win.
It's a win-win.
I have 100 on the Orioles right now. I'm still hoping for hope.
But I said before, mine is we win the North. We win 12 to 13 games. Jackson's the starter. This team is going to go crazy, and I'll give you 2 bonuses on top of that. Ozzy's last year. I think it's Suggs' last year. They're going for it. Remember that name, Jackson. He'll carry us to the 12-13 wins on the playoffs. You just remember I said that.
All right.
I'll remember when
I'm moving in it.
You and your fairy tale nonsense.
I will take my fairy tale nonsense all the way to a ring, sir. It's going to happen.
Are you
go
feeling loose
bolder.
with the $100 bills? I'll take a $100 bet on that. If you want me to put 100 on the Ravens for the Super Bowl,
$100 on the Ravens. We'll talk about the rest later on.
Yeah, Bill, I wouldn't even put the ticket in. Just book the action. Just book it yourself.
Hey, I'm telling you, this kid is something special. He's going to do something special this year. Mark my words.
Rob, we know you like Lamar Jackson, but he's not going to be a week 1 starter. So
all right, we'll see about that.
Whatever you want to bet, just let us all know.
Well, first of all, Vincent already owes me an
Just ask Meredith what she's comfortable with, and I'll whatever it is.
Well,
I'm good for it.
Bold player prediction real quick. I think
go ahead.
Jordan Lastly becomes a starting receiver by mid-year.
Wow. Really?
Bold.
Over who? I'm sorry, over who?
John Brown's going to get hurt.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a good bold prediction. Oh, anybody else have any other bold predictions?
I think Seiler, the kid from wherever, Ferris State or whatever. I think I don't know if he makes the team, but if he doesn't make the team, he's definitely going to have a mysterious injury that they can put onto on IR. They like that kid a lot.
Yeah, there'll be 3 or 4 of those this year.
Well, I'll give you another bold prediction. I think Hayden Hurst has a really good season. I think he ends up over 700 yards receiving, over 7 touchdowns.
I mean, for tight ends, if they get to 500-600, I mean, that's a good year. I mean, that's all what O.J. Howard had last year. I mean, I think he had 600, maybe 500. So if you can get
our rookie record, Max Williams broke our rookie record. It's like, I don't even know, 35 catches for 400 and change or something like that. So it's not going to take much, you know. I mean, I don't know. We'll see.
I said 700 yards, 7 touchdowns.
Yeah, I heard what you said.
For Mr. Hayden Hurst.
Yeah, we didn't talk a lot about the tight ends, but
go ahead.
You know, I just think we'll see. Mark Andrews intrigues me though as a pure Pitta type role, but Hayden Hurst I like, but we'll see. I mean, I hope he, if he can give us that seam route and that, stretch the middle of the field, that would be big for us. So he is a pivotal player.
I think Mark Andrews is the guy. I just do. I mean, when you look at Baker Mayfield threw him the ball all the time. I mean, I just think he's the guy. He can run down the seam, 6'5", big frame. I mean, to me, I think he's going to be the guy, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's your number 1 starter.
Yeah, I see Hurst. I see Hurst as like Chris Cooley type of player. Which I always thought Cooley was a nice player. Sort of H-back, fullback / tight end type guy. You can get some blocking out of him. You can get some pass catching intermediate stuff out of him and whatnot. I couldn't agree more that damn it. What's the other tight end's name? Andrews. I couldn't agree more that Andrews is going to be the more high profile type of player, bigger numbers, longer catches, that type of stuff. But I think they have the potential to be a real nice 1-2 punch. And so I was not crazy about the Hurst pick. I thought, okay. And like, obviously the coaching staff seemed real excited about him, whatever. But Andrews for me Andrews was not my favorite of the 4 tight ends, the 4 top guys, but Hurst was my least favorite of the top 4 guys. So I was happy to get both of them once we got Hurst. I would have preferred to see Michael Gallup in the 3rd round, but if for what we took, I was very happy they took Andrews as well as Hurst.
Yeah, having 2 tight ends is going to be pretty big. I think they tried that with Aaron Hernandez and Gronk, but they got stolen by the Patriots. So looks like they're trying to go back to that format again this year. That's why I think Jackson will lead us all the way there.
Come on, man. You act like Flacco doesn't love the tight end. I mean, he wants to give the ball to the tight end. He likes them in the middle of the field. They're tall. He can throw it high. And so Flacco loves the tight end as much as you seem to think Jackson does.
Let me tell you something. Nobody came to Joe Flacco's birthday, sir. Nobody.
Who cares? And Rob, I'll give you a bold prediction. They're not going to run this two tight end set as much as you think. They drafted two tight ends because the tight ends that they have on the roster are terrible. I mean, Nick Boyle is a good blocker. I mean, Max Williams has been a bust. I mean, he was a second-round pick, and this guy hasn't done anything really for the Ravens. So they had to draft two tight ends this year. Whether you want to run two tight end sets, it was really just out of need. I mean, okay. Nick Boyle is going to be the fullback now, and you're going to have three tight ends on the roster.
Don't be surprised, Ab, when you see that they'll be running a lot of two tight end sets. Trust me. That's really? Jackson's. That's the way he's going to be running this offense when he's running.
I do think they'll run
some two Crabtree. They're going to be out there with Flacco in the shotgun.
Yeah, I mean, part of the influence of Greg Roman was the multiple tight end sets. I mean, run and pass game. So that'll always be a part of it. There are offense, but I think Hayden Hurst was definitely not my favorite either. To me, you do the trade back to 25, and I'm still gonna wonder about Calvin Ridley there. And
it'll be a conversation.
That conversation is going to happen in 2-3 years to figure out if we missed on another number one receiver because we just failed to pull the trigger. So, that's the one that I'm going to be interested in. I think Mark Andrews ends up being the Pitta type receiver for us in this offense. So, we'll see. I mean, Hurst, I think, can be a complete tight end. I just, we'll see. He's got a little more like kind of Todd Heat, where he's just kind of the big tight end, give you a little blocking, give you the seam, but he just doesn't excite me too much as a player. But we'll see. I mean, I want to see these guys out there. I think that'll be the most interesting thing to watch early on.
Yeah, we'll be having the conversation about Calvin Ridley for as long as those two guys are in the league. And I mean, I swear to God, to this day, every time I hear the name Ramon Harewood, I get a little heated because he was picked one pick in front of Antonio Brown, and we took him. And he was dog shit. And I'm just saying, man, I can't I can't do it again. Come on.
See, don't get too wrapped up in the whole Calvin Ridley thing. I think the guy that I'm going to look at more is DJ Moore. I think Calvin Ridley's going to be really good, and it's just going to be a situation of circumstance because he's playing next to Julio Jones. You've got Devontae Freeman in that backfield, so you can't key on him in that offense. Whereas here in Baltimore, you can focus on him if he started to have a good rookie year. You can't in Atlanta because they've got other weapons there.
You're not wrong, but if he goes out and has a good year, it's going to be like, God damn it.
That's not going to make me feel any better.
No,
not one bit
better at all.
Yeah, but the DJ Moore thing, obviously I think the sting was a little off because he wasn't there at 25, but so the question was the 22 to 25 move, So again, the trade down, all those trade downs made this Lamar Jackson thing for me, because again, I had my skepticism, and for me, if we left the first round with Lamar Jackson as the only first round pick, then to me, I would have thought it would have been a mistake because I think we would have signaled that it was the end of Joe, that we didn't give him any help, and that we would have put so much into that at that point it just didn't feel, it wouldn't have felt like the right move. But by trading back, getting a weapon for Joe, then going back in and making those 2 trade backs to accumulate the picks to go back up and get them, where really at the end of the day, the net effect of everything was we gave up a next year's second rounder for Lamar Jackson, basically. So, when you think about all the moves that we did, that's kind of what it boiled down to. So I think that made it a lower risk situation and gave us the flexibility to see what Joe can do, see how Lamar develops without it hurting us. And I think you have to view all of that in context when you're talking about, DJ Moore and so
Yeah, I agree.
that one doesn't hurt as much, but I took that into another rant about Lamar, but I think it was all
It's all
tied
about Lamar.
together.
Lamar
Yeah.
Jackson is the make or
Honestly,
break of this draft. I mean, Lamar
Yeah.
Jackson is going to be the one pick that determines whether people think this draft was successful or if it wasn't.
Well, to me, I think yes, on the surface, but we did enough else to where we can whiff on Lamar and still come up with several starters in this draft class. And I think that's was the genius of this last draft, and really like the Ozzy tour de force of what his philosophy is, and how to manipulate the draft to
Yeah.
get what you want and to achieve multiple things, whereas teams that just sit there and make their picks and don't try to accumulate picks. You look, all the best teams that move around, all the teams that move around the most are usually the best teams. They're the Patriots, they're us, they're teams that understand how to work the board to, get to where you did. And I think just overall talking about, where we were at Ozzy's last draft and what he did, to be able to move around, get address a need, plus get your guy of the future, get all those extra picks. I think Lamar could bust out, and then you're talking maybe Orlando Brown. If you one of these tight ends hit, plus Orlando Brown, plus 1 or 2 of the late guys, that's a great class. And
I don't disagree. I don't disagree with what you're saying. However, the perception will be that it's a shitty draft because if we miss on Lamar Jackson, they'll talk about it as a shitty draft because we know it's happened in the past. In 2013, we took Elam and Arthur Brown at the top 2 picks, and they both busted out, and they talk about that draft like it was shitty. But the rest of those picks, we got Brandon Williams out of that draft. We got Kyle Juszczyk out of that draft. We got Ricky Wagner out of that draft, and we got Ryan Jensen out of that draft. And John Simon has been a pretty good player, even though it didn't happen for us. He went down to the Texans and did a pretty good job down there, and he was also in that draft. So that's 5 guys we got out of the draft that are legit players in the NFL, and that draft class is still talked about as a bust draft class.
But I think it's the bust in that class was really Elam. I mean, Elam was what everybody knew he was. He wasn't a great tackler. He didn't make big plays. All he could do was really just kind of come down and deliver the big highlight reel hit, and that was it. Like, he had limitations in coverage, and that was the scouting report on him, and the Ravens still picked him in the first round. I mean, he's the same as Brashad Perriman. Everybody knew Brashad Perriman had issues catching the football coming into the draft, and they're still here almost 4 years later. So, I mean, and then the Elam pick has just put us into the position where now you've got to go out and try to get Eric Weddle. You've got to pay a lot of money to get an Eric Weddle when they could have spent that money on something else. So that's what made that Elam pick just so bad.
Yeah, and we missed on Terrence Brooks the following year. We tried back-to-back, first round, third round safeties, and neither one of them were the shit.
I think they gave up on Terrence Brooks too fast. I mean, he had the injury. I thought Terrence Brooks was going to come around and eventually be a player.
All right. Well, I guess we'll see who's right, who's wrong. I guess our first step is training camp. That's the only thing I can point to. And Lamar Jackson wins people over. That's right. So we'll leave it at that. I'll see you guys. We'll round up again, I guess, a week after training camp. That sound pretty good?
It works for me.
Sure.
Good.
All right. We'll do a week after training camp. That way we can kind of, I guess, maybe the August 3rd after the Hall of Fame game. That way we actually get to see Hobby RG3 and Lamar Jackson actually
You think you'll see RG3 in the preseason?
Yeah.
Hall of Fame game, yes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. All right. I forgot we have 5. We got 5 preseason. I don't like that. Put RG3 out there for the first 2.
Right.
I think you're going to see a lot of. I think you're going to see a lot of RG3. I think if RG3 plays well, he's going to be the placeholder for Jalen Hill when they put him on the pup.
Okay.
That's a good point.
That makes sense.
So then you just cut RG3 and bring Jalen Hill back.
All right. Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Or Joe
That's
Flacco
only-
doesn't show up in the offseason. Lamar Jackson takes the reins. I'm telling you, this guy.
Yeah.
He's going to wow you.
You just trade Flacco to Jacksonville in week 1, and then we can bring up Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, which, by the way, that contract's so tradable. Let me tell you how tradable that
Everybody's
contract
going to
is.
want to trade.
Everybody's going to line up to trade for Flacco's contract.
After he's played like dog shit for 3 years and has the worst contract in the history.
Yeah, so
Surprised
good luck with that.
Make a trade. That's all. I'll leave it at that. Don't be surprised if Denver makes a call.
Yeah, whatever. 2011 Washington Redskins are calling with Albert Hainsworth wanting to trade for Flacco.
Yeah.
Laugh all you wish. That's why I do this podcast, to make sure I keep this on record, so I can laugh at you.
Yeah. Hey, Rob, let's get it on record. You can accept my bet, man? $100. $100 that Lamar is not to start in week 1.
No, my bet to you was I need $100 on the Ravens to win it all this year.
Yeah, I heard
we'll
you.
talk about that.
Yeah, you don't want it on the record. You can be
August
like, no, I
3rd.
didn't say that. I was just talking shit.
Hold on. August 3rd. We'll talk about that bet
Okay.
after the Hall of Fame game.
Sounds good.
All right. Well, enjoy the offseason and good Lamar Jackson. All right.
All right, gentlemen.
All right.
See ya.
Bye.